My name is Addison Smith, and I studied in visual communication design. I think the interdisciplinary nature of the school was just right for me in terms of I was a filmmaker and I had studied film theory in undergrad, and then I'm figuring out in grad school how that applies to the world of graphic design. It wasn't until I started making book structures that I realized that I was making little mini films, but they were not camera-based. They were nonlinear structures where pages would be cut or bisected and you would get multiple narratives. And I thought of it as splicing together film. And with handwriting, I could convey emotion or tone or nuance in a way that I couldn't find in digital set type. So there's this element of structure, and then there's also this element of creative exploration. And so I think those two things together define what graphic design is. One night, a girl comes up and stops me on the street, and she asked me if I had a cigarette, and I don't smoke. So I said, "I'm sorry, I don't have one." And then she looked at me up and down, and then she snapped her finger and said, "Ah, you look like the right type," and she ran down the street. You know when you have all these ideas that kind of cement in your head and kind of stay there for a while, and then it takes one little spark and it changes everything and it gives you that impulse to proceed? So that's what she did. And then my series was born from that. What I do now is I will listen in on what folks say, and I'll capture fragments of their conversation that I feel like are really loaded and can tell a narrative with just a few words. And I will draw that in terms of type or emotion or considering voice inflection, and hopefully readers can pick up on nuance in terms of gender, age, things like that. I worked for a year with Kay Rosen at the School of the Art Institute. She was my graduate advisor. She would always ask me, "What are your rules? What are your rules? How are you sticking to this? What's your recipe or your formula for execution? And how can you streamline that and really make your work hyper-focused, but hopefully speak to a large audience?" With my daily You Look Like the Right Type series, I do have a definite set of rules. Everything's in 24 hours. Everything is overheard. If I miss the quote, or if I feel like the quote's wrong, I can't use it. Everything has to be drawn in one day and then uploaded that same day. But then within that, though, to go back to this kind of organic creativity, once you establish your rules, then you can really push them to the boundaries in terms of how far do you go with experimentation or visual decoration. In a way, the rules free me up because the decisions have already been made for the construct of the current project. And so I don't have to think about that anymore. I just have to be alert to something that I hear, and then how does that get transcribed or conveyed with my pen.